Konnichiwa. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Sanjeev Khagram. I have the honor and privilege of being the CEO, Director General Dean of the Thunderbird School of Global Management here at Arizona State University. We pride ourselves in being the premier global leadership and management academy for the fourth industrial revolution, and Arizona State University, the #1 university for innovation 7 years running. For 75 years, we have had a vision of sustainable and equitable peace and prosperity worldwide. We pledge ourselves to 3 core values. We respect the rights and dignity of all people. We oppose all forms of corruption and exploitation. We advance sustainable and equitable prosperity worldwide. This is our brand new global headquarters in downtown Phoenix. We're very proud of it. We wouldn't be here, frankly, without the leadership of Mayor Gallego, who is our incredible partner and leader. So we want to welcome her back again here today. Over the last 3.5 years since I've had the privilege of being at the Thunderbird School, we have expanded around the world in addition to completing this most technologically advanced global headquarters. And one of the first centers I mentioned to Consul General Muto that we set up when I came was in Tokyo. We have a deep and long-term partnership with Japan as a society. We have nearly 1,400 alums in Japan, some very significant, incredibly significant ones, including Hiroshi Yamada, the CEO of the largest mortgage bank in Japan, and many others I'll talk about. We, in addition to the center, are going to be launching an entire campus with our partner university, Hiroshima, in April of next year. So our commitment at Thunderbird and ASU to Japan is longstanding, and we see it for the next 75 years of our history, to be sure. Finally, as I welcome my great friend and brother. When I first arrived in Phoenix 3.5 years ago, Doug Bruhnke welcomed me with open arms. The Global Chamber, as he will confirm, was founded on the old Thunderbird campus. Global and unstoppable is their motto, and we completely agree, as ours is borders frequented by trade and diplomacy seldom needs soldiers. If there are 2 sides of the coin, it certainly is the Global Chamber and the Thunderbird School. So we're proud and honored to be hosting this event, the first one of many here at our new global headquarters with the Global Chamber. Without further ado, Doug.
You're mentioning welcoming you with open arms. It brings back a lot of good memories pre-COVID, for sure. As I understand it, the first event publicly that Dean Coghram went to was Global Chamber. And we had earlier some slides up there. It was actually, that was the event. It shows up on the Global Chamber website on our homepage, because we're so proud of our experience, our inspiration by Thunderbird School of Global Management. There can't be a less global place in the world than Glendale, Arizona. So moving to downtown Phoenix makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? What do you think? So very happy and very pleased to introduce a special guest here from Los Angeles, Consul General Muto. He has been in his role in Los Angeles with the country of Japan since 2019. He's a leader in the community there, and he's a leader within the Japanese community. We really appreciate his support and assistance for Arizona. Some of you may remember a year or so ago, Mayor Gallego and other leaders within the community spoke about investing in Arizona, and that was really inspired by Consul General Muto and his desire to have more Japanese understand the value of Phoenix, Arizona, and investing here and all the different attributes to it. And we'll hear from the mayor here in a few minutes. But Consul General Muto, could you come up and share and make some opening remarks?
Well, thank you, Doug, for the kind introduction. And thank you, Mayor Gallego, for graciously making the time from your busy schedule. Well, COVID-19 has created many challenges, many of which are thankfully starting to go away, but some of which are still hanging over us and the world's economy. I think we can all agree that the past 2 years served as an unprecedented stress test for the world economy. And whatever reasons, we have learned that we need to create a stronger system. And since semiconductors are the heart of most high-value products these days, hedging risk and securing supplies of these components is critical. And critical although it is, but not easily or quickly done. For both the United States and Japan, ensuring security and stable supply chains in the semiconductor sector are one of the top priorities of discussion at the highest level. Both nations are meeting their concerns with new plans for investment to both bringing semiconductor production closer to home and at the same time diversify the global supply chain. Prime Minister Suga and President Biden have established the US-Japan competitiveness and resilience for core partnership with stated objectives to cooperate on sensitive supply chains, including semiconductors, and on the promotion and protection of critical technologies. Private cooperation between Japanese and US companies has also inspired new initiatives, such as IOWN Global Forum, which stands for Innovative, Optical, and Wireless Network, founded by NTT, Intel, and Sony, with dozens of global firms joining since. In light of these developments, predicated on collaborations, the proactive efforts of the city of Phoenix, the surrounding cities, including Scottsdale and in the Arizona statewide, are extremely timely and important. As you will hear today, Japanese companies are poised to play a stronger role in the creation of an impressive semiconductor cluster industry in Arizona. Japanese firms are major suppliers of chemicals, resins, metal components, and machinery that supports the industry worldwide. And they will undoubtedly be supporting the industry here in Phoenix too. Japan is the second largest foreign investing nation here in Arizona, after your North American neighbor, Canada. About $7 billion of investment to this state from Japan, employing about 11,000 Arizonans. Our friends from Taiwan are on track to probably becoming your largest foreign investor nation, which I think is a wonderful development for your state. So instead of just two, it looks like three birds with one stone. Stronger security, diversity in supply chain, and for Japanese companies, suddenly increasing opportunity. I'm looking forward to hearing today's conversation. And last year, we held a similar discussion on Japan's activities in Arizona's economy. So we look forward to your continuing interest and cooperation in helping us create a regular platform for dialogue focused on semiconductor collaborations, perhaps as an annual event. Thank you.
We're here to talk about the semiconductor industry and the fact that Phoenix and Arizona is a hub for an important industry. One other thing you may not know that Arizona and Phoenix in particular is known for is the Nippon Matsuri. Number 1 or 2 largest Japanese festivals in the United States. Kelly may correct me, but I think it's number 1 or 2. Kelly Moore is the honorary consul for Japan in Arizona for many years. He runs and has been a key player in the organization of the festival. He also has been a recipient of the Order of the Rising Sun. Very few non-Japanese people have received that award. Kelly Moore, could you say a few words about the festival?
And a lot more. I've got a little spiel here. As I was this morning, they said, could you say something about life in general? And I was thinking about, as I grew up, number 1, I am the honorary Consul General of Japan. I'm also a 4th generation Arizonan. and I grew up in Tempe. And just kind of thinking about in the old days when I was little, our house was here and it was surrounded by cotton fields. And that was the entire valley, I think, pretty much. It didn't matter if it's Chandler, Glendale, or Tempe. And, you know, my playground was the cotton fields. And in the winter, when they brought in the sheep for fodder, we would either chase them and try to ride them or throw oranges at them, you know, what, depending on the day. Yeah, after college, I went to Japan, just out of college, just to go to Japan and live in a different country, stayed for a number of years, and I would come home periodically. And I remember one time in about probably 1978 or 79, I can't remember exactly. My parents had moved to South Tempe, but it was still cotton fields and alfalfa. And off in the distance, I saw this construction going on. What is that? And got on my bike and rode over, and it said "Future Home of Intel." And I thought, oh, okay. You know, and I didn't even know what Intel was, to be quite honest. I said, oh, it's something. And then over the years, I'd come back, and the next time I came back, Intel was done, and all of a sudden the cotton fields were disappearing. There were more and more industries growing and fabs. And it was just a radical change from what I had known as I was little. And if you look at today's world, I mean, within the Phoenix area, first of all, we have a number of Japanese companies. I think we'll talk about that a little bit today. There's a school, Arizona Gakuen, which serves the expats' children, plus any other kids who want to go and learn Japanese. There's a Japan Business Association of Arizona that supports the Japanese companies. And it's a great environment for any kind of development and investment. And I know today that we're going to hear a lot of insights and maybe talk a little bit about the challenges that some of the companies face. And I'm looking forward to hearing from our speakers. Thank you. Oh, the festival, I forgot. I was supposed to talk about the festival. It's on February 26th and 27th. It's virtual this year. And if you go to ArizonaMatsuri.org, you can sign on and look at it. And we did it, this is our second year in a row. Last year it was very successful. And I recommend spending some time on that weekend to look at the Arizona Matsuri. Thanks.
It's #1 in our hearts, but is it the largest?
I think it's pretty much number 1 or 2 in the country. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the next speaker needs no introduction. He's already been introduced, but Dean Khagram is going to be introducing the mayor, and he's also going to be talking about the global aspects of the semiconductor industry. We have some of the countries involved with the semiconductor industry. Clearly, it's an international industry involving nearly every country, but on the manufacturing side and on the production side, there are some key countries. Certainly in Asia, the Netherlands is another one. One of the things that Thunderbird talks about, believes in, and lives every day is internationalization and globalization, and that we're better together. And as a Ugandan refugee, there's probably nobody that I know that understands the global tribe and the concept of inclusion and diversity and using that for business advantage than Dean Coghram. So Dean, please.
Once again, the Honorable Akira Muto, Consul General of Japan, the Honorable Kelly Moore, Honorary Consul General for Japan and Arizona, the Honorable Mayor Kate Gallego, all protocols observed. We at the Thunderbird School, as Doug mentioned, have been committed to a world of inclusion, bringing the world together for 75 years. As he said, and as you all know, and Consul General and the Honorary Consul General mentioned, the global semiconductor industry is absolutely central to the future of the world and what we consider to be the 4th industrial revolution. We also spoke with the Consul General and Mayor Gallego about the green hydrogen economy. And we know that the green hydrogen economy is also an incredibly important global sector. And again, the government of Japan and Society of Japan is really in the lead. And we look forward, and I know the mayor will discuss this, to welcoming more of that investment and partnership. The mayor is also a great champion of climate action. She is the head of the C40 Green Jobs Alliance, and we spoke about how the semiconductor industry, as well as the green hydrogen industry that Japan, along with others, are really leading, can lead to greater jobs and employment and improved livelihoods here in Phoenix and Arizona, in, of course, Japan, but all around the world. The important things I want to mention about the semiconductor industry, the green hydrogen sector, other opportunities for us here in Phoenix and Arizona, in Japan, and around the world are threefold. The first for us at Thunderbird begins with a global mindset, a global mindset. Thunderbird invented the notion of global mindset. It has three dimensions: intellectual, social, and psychological. Millions of professionals around the world have taken the global mindset inventory. We continue to espouse and believe that if we bring to the world a greater global mindset, all of the other things that we want to achieve, including within particular sectors like the semiconductor industry or the green hydrogen industry, more broadly in terms of peace and prosperity, can be advanced. Alongside that, just a little while ago on January 20th, we announced perhaps the most ambitious global education initiative in human history. Our goal with our wonderful institution at Thunderbird and Arizona State University is to reach 100 million learners over the next 10 years around the world with the skill sets, the mindsets, the value sets of the new global economy, the 21st century world. This 5-course digital certificate with courses like global leadership in the fourth industrial revolution, entrepreneurship and sustainable business, and so forth, will be available to learners around the world at no cost, and translated into 40 different languages, including Japanese. So we're very proud of this initiative. We are grateful to our donors and benefactors and co-creators, Francis and Dion Najafi, who are Thunderbird and ASU alums, to help us do that. And we look forward to working with the Consul General, with the government of Japan, with our partners in Hiroshima, our center in Tokyo, to advance that initiative. The second, I mentioned global mindset. The second is a policy environment here at the local level that Mayor Gallego is really leading, at the state level, at the national level, and globally, to make free trade and free and equitable and sustainable trade and investment possible. We need now to engender a new era of this policy, this set of conducive policy frameworks. And that's something that we are fully committed to here at the Thunderbird School of Global Management in partnership with Mayor Gallego and Consul General Muto, incredible leaders that believe that this is the best way. As I said, our famous motto and our beliefs are borders frequented by trade and diplomacy seldom needs soldiers. The third, of course, is leadership and empowering both this generation and supporting this generation of incredible leaders, but also future generations of leaders with both the mindsets and skill sets, but also the value sets, as I mentioned, to lead in the fourth industrial revolution. Again, semiconductors, the green hydrogen industry, these new technologies and capabilities in Japan, as Doug mentioned, in the Netherlands, Taiwan, here in the United States, certainly here in Phoenix and Greater Phoenix, which the mayor will certainly discuss about as one of the great now global hubs, if not the premier global hub of semiconductors. And that is because of the great leadership of Mayor Gallego and others in our environment here. Let me end before I introduce and welcome Mayor Gallego to make some comments, again, to remind that we at Thunderbird, whether it's our Center of Excellence in Tokyo, our partnership with Hiroshima, our broader research partnerships through Arizona State University in semiconductors, in green hydrogen, in carbon removal technologies to advance sustainable and equitable prosperity, see Japan as our absolute central and long-term partner. I just want to mention again that the co-chair of our Thunderbird Global Advisory Council is Hiroshi Yamada. He's the chairman and president CEO of Aruhi Company and one of our most distinguished Japanese alums. We also have Hiroshi Nakata, the president of Blue Planet Works. We have Shinji Osakawa, the founder of GMO Research. We have Yuichi Utsuka, who is the vice president at Tower Semiconductor in Japan, and I could go on. These alums, our Japanese alums, our many alums like Brian, who's in the back, we want to welcome him back, that have been dedicated to Japan and fostering positive relationships between Japan and the United States and bringing peace and prosperity to the world. Our great alums like Bethany, our global partnerships and director at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. We are all working together, right, Brian, Bethany, to support Mayor Gallego, Consul General Muto, Doug, and everyone else to advance this great opportunity for us. The future is incredibly bright despite these challenges. Let me end then with one plea or request. As Consul General Muto mentioned, he would like to make this an annual event. We also at Thunderbird ASU have a great building location in downtown LA. Mayor Gallego has been a very close partner with Mayor Garcetti, who will of course be moving on. We see, right, Mayor Gallego, this partnership between Phoenix and Los Angeles and the greater Southwest and out into the world, especially to our partner in Japan, as being absolutely central to the future of our city and our state. And we couldn't be in better hands than Mayor Kate Gallego. So please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be with you here today, both those who are with us in person and those of us who are joining us online. Consul General Muto, we are so proud to have you back. We really feel that the Consul General values the relationship with Phoenix and he continues to invest. This is not his first visit and we really do believe him that we are starting perhaps a very robust annual tradition. He has a great team and Honorary Council Moore and all, we appreciate the partnership. It is wonderful to be back at Thunderbird. Thank you to Dean Coghram for hosting this and more importantly, really pushing Phoenix to be a great global city. We are the 5th largest city in the country. We've added more people than any other city in the US, but we still have some work to do being known globally for the work that is happening here. And I think with Thunderbird as our partner, we can really share the amazing investments that are happening in this community on advanced biomedical, semiconductor, and so many other industries that really set us apart and put us as a city that will help lead the United States into our next era. The city was proud to be a financial partner to bringing Thunderbird to downtown, and we really think it's an investment that will move us forward to the type of city we want to be, where we really are globally connected and where young people growing up in this community have the chance to pursue whatever their dreams would be and be as connected as possible throughout the world. So thank you to Thunderbird and the entire team at Thunderbird for the work that you are doing to move Phoenix on that agenda. We also really appreciate the Global Chamber. I've been able to work with Doug. I think since very early days, apparently the Thunderbird had the Global Chamber first, but we think the first municipal event, Phoenix City Hall.
When you were running.
Yes. Yep. So we've done many, many events. And again, I firmly believe that Phoenix is stronger when we are more globally connected, when we have deeper economic ties. Appreciate our partners at the Commerce Authority and GPEC who also are sharing that very same mission. We have worked together in a great success story on so many global deals. One that is on our minds today with the semiconductor industry was TSMC, $12 billion of investment in Phoenix. It is our largest foreign direct investment ever, and one that happened at the height of the COVID pandemic. COVID hit during the end of my first year as mayor. It was a rough rookie year in that way. You as mayor ask yourself, how is my community going to come out of a global pandemic? What will our city's future be? And the fact that we could have our largest foreign direct investment ever during the pandemic gave our residents an assurance that we will continue to create the great jobs that we have done in the past, that the things that make this community a desirable place to work and live will continue to be true. TSMC joins a robust, already existing semiconductor ecosystem here, including Intel, which is in making huge investments as well in the greater Phoenix area. And we think that entire partnership can only be stronger with more robust work with Japan. Japan has been a very strong leader in the semiconductor industry, and there's important supply chain advantages, but also national security advantages to working more closely together. So we hope we can use this event as a springboard and really look at the amazing opportunities in Phoenix. We have the ability to welcome many more additional companies. We have a supplier campus that is zoned in our city, and we've seen suppliers investing not just in Phoenix, but throughout Arizona. Very recently, Sunlit broke ground and is making a very large multi-million-dollar investment not far from where TSMC is. We know we expect some good announcements coming soon and more to celebrate, and hopefully even more investments from Japanese companies will be part of it. We've been pleased to see so many companies from Japan invest in this community, from helping us with our healthcare and biomedical needs to a more recent one with United Foods, which will improve our culinary supply here, and also $11 million of investment, great jobs created. So lots of good news to come. This year, we celebrate our 46th anniversary with our sister city in Japan of Himeji. I'm very excited to be joined today by Rita Marco, who leads our sister cities work at the city of Phoenix. We've had robust partnerships with Himeji on arts and culture, business development. We send a great cadre of folks to help teach English. And many of the people who participated as young people in Sister City Exchange to Himeji have come back and gotten involved in the business community here, thus strengthening our ties. So that's a great relationship that we will continue to foster. Sister Cities has been a great economic engine for us. Even our TSMC trip began as a 40th anniversary of our relationship with our sister city of Taipei. So hopefully every time we mark a big anniversary, perhaps we will have a major announcement. No pressure, Rita. But we are at 46, so that means that 50 is coming up with Himeji soon. So Consul General and I will have to get to work with bigger announcements here to have. Very excited to be with all of you today. Thank you for having me.
The mayor needs to step away. And while she's doing that, Ghazal, I might need you for the video. Or are you going to do it from back there? Okay, don't start that yet, but
we have the best technology, we have the best tech team in the world.
fantastic. While that's getting queued up, I wanted to mention one thing for our global chamber team around the world. And that is Mayor Gallego is a frequent, I frequently talk about Mayor Gallego when we talk about global chamber not being political. We don't get into politics. We're about connecting companies to opportunities and supporting ecosystems like we have here in the semiconductor industry, like we're doing today. However, we do talk to politicians. And so Mayor Gallego, when she was running for mayor, there was one other person who was kind of a key person she was running against. And so we talked to her and her competitor about speaking about international business before she became a mayor. And we were wondering, well, who is this lady? You know, she, I think, had worked for SRP at the time and didn't know how much she knew about international, but I knew she went to Wharton. So she must be a pretty smart lady. So she gets there with the two people back to back. I don't remember who went first, but I do remember being blown away by her knowledge. And we had asked her to talk, and her competitor to talk about what's her strategy going to be about international. And she aced it. And every single person that I talked to afterwards said, wow, she's amazing. And she is amazing. And that's how things like TSMC happen, because people think and they come up with strategies and they understand the world and they understand the value of doing international business. So thank you, Mayor Gallego, for all that you do. Really appreciate it. Let's now Senator Mark Kelly has a a short video where he's going to be talking about Arizona as a welcome to the semiconductor industry.
Hey, everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. I want to welcome all of you to Arizona and take a few minutes to talk about our state's semiconductor industry. As you know, semiconductors are in nearly everything, from cell phones to washing machines to cars and fighter jets. And globally, there's a semiconductor shortage, which means we need to boost production and discover new and smart ways to make chips for the future. And there's nowhere better to do that here in the United States, and especially here in Arizona. Arizona is at the heart of current efforts to strengthen our domestic semiconductor production. In the past 2 years, TSMC and Intel have both announced multi-billion-dollar investments in Arizona, and dozens of more companies who make cutting-edge tools and materials and who design, package, and test chips are also coming to Arizona. I know Congress can do more to support these investments. That's why I spent months last year writing and negotiating a bipartisan deal which provides $52 billion to provide incentive grants to support chip makers who decide to open new locations here in the US and fund leading edge research. Our bipartisan bill passed the Senate overwhelmingly last year, and we're now working with the House of Representatives to negotiate a final deal. I'm committed to getting our bipartisan deal signed into law this spring, and I'm not stopping there. I'm also leading the fight in the Senate to ensure that companies throughout the semiconductor supply chain, from those who make the tools and materials to those who do the final testing and packaging, can also benefit from these CHIPS Act programs. And I'm working to create a permanent investment tax credit to support long-term semiconductor capital investments here in the United States. As more and more companies look to expand into the United States and Arizona, please consider me and my office a resource. And know that me and my colleagues in Arizona's congressional delegation are working hard to support this critical industry in the months and years to come. Thank you and enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Senator Kelly. Yes, you may. Absolutely. I think Senator Kelly and Mayor Gallego both illustrate the importance of leadership within governments around the world. Those, Global Chamber is in 525 chapters, and when we look at what's happening in the rest of the world, in some countries, it doesn't work this well. There are people that don't have the vision, don't have the knowledge, don't have the appreciation for supporting business and having it be more successful. And so the combination of business people who are amazing, like Dennis, who's here in the audience as an exporter, exporting from Arizona, or leaders that we have in office, whether it's Mayor Gallego at the city level, whether it's Senator Kelly at the state level. And another city we have is the city of Peoria. You may not think of that necessarily first, Peoria, Arizona, as a global city, but it is. It's very global. And Susanna Trecenti is on the Global Chamber Phoenix Advisory Board. In fact, she leads our efforts on young global leaders and getting young global leaders involved with international business and creating mentoring systems around that. Our next event here in Phoenix is March 17th. It's around helping young global leaders understand supply chain and logistics and transportation and getting them involved in that industry and getting them knowledgeable. We had an event yesterday from Bangladesh, Global Chamber Dhaka, where we had over 300 people signed up for an event that connected young people to people who are more experienced on the international side to advance all of us, for old people like me to learn from young people and young people to hopefully be better at creating global impact. So Susanna is one of those young global leaders. She's going to build on what Senator Kelly talked about and give us a city of Peoria perspective on the semiconductor bills that are going through. Susanna, can you hear me, hopefully? And could you take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about what that means from your perspective in the cities?
Hi, Doug. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
All right. Thanks. And first of all, congratulations on your first event in the new headquarters. I mean, I'm feeling a little bit FOMO right now. I'm missing out, but I promise I'll be there next time. And you're right, here in Peoria, we are busy at work. The CHIPS Act discussion has been lengthy, but has brought really fruitful partnerships. We understand the importance of our national security, our infrastructure, and in economic development, the quality jobs, of course. But because of all of this, we're proudly working with the Arizona District Export Council. They're actually organizing a letter of support to the Arizona delegation and to the House and to the Senate leadership. And I hope everyone in attendance is willing to show their support by also working with the AZ DEC. And this is one of those efforts where we as a state can come together for the greater good. Mayor Gallego mentioned, 12 billion in investment alone for just one project. Imagine everything else if we're willing to help and support. So if you're interested, please let either, Carol Colombo, Mel Sanderson, or myself, or even Doug, and we'll be, willing to help you and hopefully we get your support on this. But Doug, thank you for allowing us to amplify this effort. I think it's just really critical.
Thank you, Susanna. Thank you. And I am on the Arizona District Export Council, and I got the message that we need to put our logos in. So I'm going to be doing that probably tonight after the event to support that letter. And if you are a company or you've got an individual who believes in what's happening there, please let me know, send me an email, and we'll get you involved. Our next speaker is Colleen Schwab. She's the Chief Performance Officer at GPEC. And it's a little bit of a historical perspective tonight, because Global Chamber really was founded because of the inspiration of Thunderbird. But prior to that, several years before, our very first speaker, when I was thinking, hey, Arizona should be more global, Phoenix should be more global, I need to do something. So I organized a meeting with a guy named Rod Miller, who was Greater Phoenix Economic Council international person in what was that? That was 2007, October of 2007. And he was heading international at the time, which meant, I think at GPEC to some extent, and I'm a New Yorker, so I'm sarcastic, he knew how to spell international. But back then, hardly anybody in Phoenix and in Arizona really was very global. That was part of what I thought, is like, wow, we need to be a lot more global. Rod was, and he is. He's actually now heading Invest Puerto Rico, where Cesar is, who's running a lot of this meeting from Puerto Rico right now. But we really appreciate the transformation GPEC has made over the years. They've always been capable, but their focus in on international and the advancements they've made on the international side are fantastic. And Colleen's going to talk a little bit about some of those. Colleen Schwab, thank you.
All right, and we're pulling up my slides as well. So while we wait for the slides to come up, as Doug said, my name is Colleen Schwab, and I'm the Chief Performance Officer here at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. And so I want to start out by just saying thank you. Thank you to Thunderbird for holding this incredible event. And we are so excited about building and growing our relationship with the country of Japan. And Consul General Muto and the Japanese government, we really look forward to this continued collaboration for more foreign direct investment into this market, and to also just enhance those international relationships. They're really critical to the growing global metropolis that we have here in the Greater Phoenix area. And so I'm also really honored to be presenting alongside Mayor Gallego, we've got Susanna, Jason Bagley, and others here today to talk about the Greater Phoenix area and what we have going on in the semiconductor industry. And so Before I get started, I'll tell you just very briefly about the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. So as Doug had mentioned, we are the economic development arm for the Greater Phoenix region that consists of 22 cities and towns and Maricopa County. We focus on the business attraction. So every time you're seeing that headline in the newspaper about new businesses that are coming here, we probably had a hand in helping that along. So we focus on the business attraction, but we also focus on building the marketing and the brand for this region so that people around the globe know that Greater Phoenix has a lot to offer. And so it's been an exciting journey as we have been around for the last 32 years. So let me see here. There we go. All right. So I always like to, whenever I talk about Greater Phoenix area, I always like to talk a little bit about history because history is such an important piece to telling about the present story and our future trajectory. And so Greater Phoenix was, or actually Arizona was founded on February 14th, 1912. So we almost have a birthday coming up as a state. And part of that history though, is to recognize that we were the last of the 48 contiguous states to be admitted into the Union here in the United States. So you look at other states such as New York, which was founded in the 1600s, Illinois, which was founded in the 1800s. Well, those communities, yes, they did have a head start in some ways. What you're seeing in the Greater Phoenix area is that we have a young, dynamic culture here, that 70% of us are actually not from the Greater Phoenix area. We've come here from somewhere else, myself being one of those people. And we have a lot of stories to tell because we have made this place home, because this place has a lot of opportunity. And when you think about the past of the Greater Phoenix area, we're actually known for what people here call the 5 C's, which is climate, citrus, copper, cattle, and cotton. And so you heard some remarks earlier just about cattle and citrus and how that was sort of a generational opportunity to really get involved in industry here. But as we think about how Greater Phoenix has changed and transitioned is that we have moved into a much more diversified economy. And we look at these high-tech industries, we look at information, manufacturing, finance and insurance, healthcare, all of those industries have helped us to diversify the economy. And when you think about the Great Recession, right? The Greater Phoenix market was actually one of the last markets to recover from the Great Recession. Fast forward to today with industry diversification and the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, Greater Phoenix was actually one of the first markets to recover. That's because we have incredible leadership here that takes a very proactive approach to how we look at our economy, how we look at the health of our market as a whole. And it's a very exciting time to be in the Greater Phoenix area. We can go to the next slide. And so part of this story that we have to tell though is the story of intentionality. And so in 2017, there was a report that was published, and this report was developed over the course of about 2013 to 2017. And this was in partnership with the Brookings Institute and JP Morgan Chase. And the entire goal of this report was to examine what was happening in the Greater Phoenix area on how we attract and retain foreign direct and also develop strategies for establishing the region as a leader in the Internet of Things or IoT and sensor technology applications. So this a lot of the work that's happening in this market right now is the result of a lot of intentional planning that happened many, many years ago. And so we're excited about this work. And there was many key findings from this report. Not all of them that I am going to go into now, but there's 3 main ones that I do want to highlight that do reflect the current position of where we are at. We can actually go back to the last slide too. And so the 3 areas or the 3 key findings, one of them is the Internet of Things revolution. It was really touted after a deep look into our industry that we had burgeoning here, that we had a strong competency in IoT. And not only that our second key finding was that we're positioned to really capitalize on that. We have leadership that we're taking a really proactive approach to producing talent to meet the needs of the future sensor technologies and semiconductor industry. And then additionally, one of the last key findings that I'll highlight is that Canada, Mexico, Europe, and Asia were really touted as opportunities and partners in foreign direct investment here in the Greater Phoenix area. And so while yes, this plan was really about becoming a recognized global leader in next generation of sensor technology application through intentional and collaborative efforts, what we have found was that a lot of this has come to fruition, come to reality in present day. And this, again, was not just a report that sat on a shelf, it was a report that we put into action. So one of the outcomes that was a result of this was actually a marketing campaign that was created called The Connected Place. And so if you were at Select USA approximately 5 years ago, this region had a really robust booth that had virtual reality technologies that allowed you to get yourself immersed into next generation education and training and these key innovative technologies that we had that were burgeoning here. So you could see and experience it firsthand. And the Connected Place marketing and branding campaign really set that trajectory for the microelectronics and semiconductor sector. And many other efforts from collaborative programs, a global partnership program, a lot of things came out of this campaign or this plan as well. And so if we want to go to the next slide. So as you can see here on this slide, the US semiconductor manufacturing is concentrated in a handful of markets across the United States, and obviously Greater Phoenix being one of them. But Greater Phoenix, with the semiconductor industry, it's actually had a foothold on it for a little while now. In fact, in 1949, we had the first commercial high power transistor, which is used in car radios, that was developed here. And so that was really one of those first steps in the semiconductor industry. We can go to the next slide. But we're seeing that obviously there's a changing global supply chains across the globe. And as a result of the pandemic, right, there's a desire to have shortened those supply chains. Now you can see here that the United States has about 13% of the fabrication capacity. Back in about 1990, that number was 37, largely because many of these other markets have continued to advance in fabrication capacity. And what we are working to do is to bring a lot of that technology and that innovation, that manufacturing back to this market. It's a really exciting time to be in the Greater Phoenix area as we think about the thriving semiconductor and tech ecosystem. And we also have really strong proximity to the West Coast, tech hubs, ports of entry, and a strong consumer base. So if we want to go to the next slide. So as we think about some of the ecosystem giants that we currently have here in the Greater Phoenix area, you heard Mayo Gallego talk about TSMC and the $12 billion expansion. They took down that 1,100 acres in the North Phoenix area. You've got Jason Bagley on here, who he will tell you all about Intel in a much more intelligent way than I ever could. And so I'll leave that one to that. But both of these investments are really critical to the future of Greater Phoenix and the continued expansion of our economy. And we can go to the next slide. And so as we look at the ecosystem here in the Greater Phoenix area in regards to the semiconductor sector, you can see that we have a really strong and robust ecosystem. And that has really made it an opportunity for people like TSMC, like Intel, to see continued opportunity in this market. And also, as Mayor Gallego had earlier mentioned, that there are a lot of, with these announcements, there's a lot of the supplier network of these semiconductor businesses that are interested in this market. In fact, in the Greater Phoenix Economic Council pipeline, we have about 40 plus businesses that are currently evaluating this market by way of these announcements that have been made. And these 40 plus businesses, it's a huge opportunity for this market. It could result in more than 10,000 jobs and over 45 billion in capital investment. And so as we kind of continue to look at this, right now you're seeing that the semiconductor manufacturers, they employ about 20,000 people in this market by way of these various logos that you're seeing. And this is only a small snapshot of those logos as well. We can go to the next slide. And so part of what the narrative about Greater Phoenix is that we also recognize that there's a lot of downstream opportunities with the semiconductor industry growth here in this market. And just featuring one of those sectors is the EV and AV, so the electric vehicle and the autonomous vehicle market. We have had a lot of growth in this sector here in the Greater Phoenix area. And most recently, we had an announcement from Coreplex. They are a battery manufacturer that helps obviously to power these electric vehicles to go forward. And so we see a lot of these investments happening in this market because Greater Phoenix is a hub for semiconductors. And that is what is drawing a lot of these downstream industries to further support what we have going on here in this market and see opportunity. But I'd be remiss in saying that it's not just about, right, one industry coming here. It's really about the broader story that we have to tell about the Greater Phoenix area. It's about the talent production that is coming out of places like Thunderbird and ASU. You know, right now in the engineering program at ASU, there is about 27,000 students in the engineering program, graduating about 4,500 each year. That's a critical number that is helping to bring these businesses and attract these businesses to be looking at this market. And that's only an example of one of our higher education institutions that are helping to propel education here in the area and prepare these businesses so that not only do they have the talent that they need today, but that they're future-proofing themselves for what they need for tomorrow, because they know that we are a market that is dedicated to creating opportunities. And we can go to the next slide. And so when we look at what is happening in the greater Phoenix area, really if you live here, you know that the greater Phoenix area is very spread out. But we have businesses from all that are selecting the greater various communities across the region. And what this means is that so many of our residents are able to obtain these high quality, high paying jobs in random communities throughout the region. And that's what's so exciting. And part of that is that when you look at that supply chain, you look at what's happening, is that if you want to go from Lucid to TSMC, you're probably looking at about a 90-minute commute. Not bad at all. But a lot of these have, small 30-minute commutes to get from one to another to create that collaborative and partnership driven environment. We can go to the next slide. And so what I want to kind of close with is that, as Susanna had talked about, as Mayor Gallego had mentioned, we do need to continue to advocate for federally funded semiconductor R&D programs here in the greater Phoenix area, continuing to advance the CHIPS Act and making sure that we are positioned in this market to be able to really attract those businesses in a strong and productive way. We also need to continue to look at those downstream microelectronics opportunities. We need to continue to produce talent that is needed to support the industry for the long haul. But really, when we look at what this market is truly about, this market is truly about connectivity. It's about togetherness. It's about how we collaborate to make sure that business and people can thrive here. And so I appreciate the opportunity to give remarks tonight about the semiconductor sector and about Greater Phoenix and about what makes this region so special. So thank you again.
Thank you, Colleen. The next several speakers we're going to be talking to are kind of the heart of the semiconductor industry here within the region. Everybody knows Jason Bagley, as he's been a long time speaker for Intel, a leader at Intel, and also representative of their interests, but also interests in the community. So everybody knows that. What thing you may not know about Jason is that, like me, he's a University of Utah grad. So he comes from good credentials besides all of his great work with Intel. Jason, thank you in advance for sharing, and we look forward to hearing more about your view and perspectives from Intel.
Thank you, Doug. It is a pleasure. Mr. Consul General, I know Mayor Gallego has left, but I wanted to acknowledge her, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about Intel and to participate in this event. So congratulations to Thunderbird, who do a great job. We have a number of my Intel colleagues who have been and are being educated at that fine institution. And thank you, Colleen, for doing such a great job of outlining the industry in Arizona. And GPEC does just a fabulous work in helping to build Arizona's economy and strengthen it, and to be very strategic about it. So I'm grateful that she had an opportunity to speak. Intel was invented by some visionaries over 50 years ago here in the United States, and they invented the microprocessor. And this company brought that to the market and really launched and strengthened the semiconductor industry. Silicon Valley was really had its start through Intel, and since then we've had a hand in creating the Silicon Desert, the Silicon Forest, the Silicon Isle, the Silicon Oasis, and most recently the Silicon Heartland, among other places where we have been investing and growing our industry. And here in Arizona, we have been a part of the Arizona landscape for over 40 years now, and participating and working with Arizona to help strengthen Arizona. And it's been a fabulous place for Intel over the years and continues to be. I wanted to, let me share a couple of things here. Hopefully, this slide is not new, but it's important, and I wanted to put this up on the screen to just underscore. Colleen referenced some of these numbers as well, but it's important that we take a minute and internalize what this means. The semiconductor industry was born in the United States. We innovated in the United States. We grew this industry in the United States. And in the 1990s had 37% of the global semiconductor manufacturing taking place in the United States. Well, other countries around the world figured out that they needed, if they wanted to grow such a game-changing technology, they needed to invest, and those countries did so. And they're primarily countries in Asia. And they did a great job. They were serious about it, and capital flows to where it's invited and where it is wanted. And capital did do that. And that has resulted in a decline in this country from a high of about 37% to down to 12% of manufacturing taking place in this country. And that is unacceptable. And so Intel, among others, have really been focusing on trying to drive a national policy in the United States that supports semiconductors. And I so appreciate Senator Kelly, his colleagues' work back in the Congress, to where really for the first time, we are seeing the country in a very bipartisan way make a statement and an investment around the importance of semiconductors in the United States and wanting to put a significant amount of investment in that. Up till that point, up to this point, it's been left to the states and local communities to really carry this water. And Arizona, it speaks to the strength of Arizona, the strength of the communities, Phoenix and so forth, of their willingness to invest in this industry, which has enabled such growth in Arizona. Well, now we are on the brink of being able to have a national policy and the national investment, which we hope will significantly alter and even out this global supply of the semiconductor industry. With that in mind, there are, let me see if I can get back to this other slide. There are few companies in the world who can do what Intel does. And this chart that you can see, it shows a number of great semiconductor companies on the left. As you move toward the right, fewer and fewer of these companies are able to produce leading edge technology. And the reason is it's just so expensive. It is such a capital intensive business that very few companies can do this. You can see on the right-hand side, the cost of building a fabrication facility is just skyrocketing. It's now costing well over $10 billion just to build a fab. These fabs are not small, they're massive. The clean room space where all the manufacturing takes place is roughly 4 football fields in size. They are huge and require tremendous investment. And there are really only 3 companies on the planet that can operate and have the capacity to invest the capital on an ongoing basis to be relevant with the leading edge technologies, Samsung, TSMC, and Intel. And Arizona is home to 2 of the 3 global giants in the semiconductor industry. And there are many other semiconductor players in Arizona as well. But it is very important to recognize that those who are at the leading edge of this industry are choosing to invest in Arizona in a big way. And I just want to pause for a moment and point out that Japan has been a critical partner in the semiconductor industry. Japan has capabilities and competencies that are unparalleled in this industry, and Intel, among others, rely heavily on Japan. In fact, some of the companies that are going to be participating today are very much involved in Intel with Nippon and Hitachi, for example. They're recognized as preferred quality suppliers to our company, and there are many others. And so Japan plays a critical role in the semiconductor industry with Intel, and certainly with the growth of the semiconductor industry in Arizona. So let's talk a little bit about why Intel has been investing and continues to invest in Arizona. In terms of investment, there are two things that are the lifeblood of our company. One is investment in research and development. Two is ongoing investment in manufacturing capacity. And so in order for Intel to continue to be relevant and to be able to provide our products and technology to our customers, we have to continue to invest on an ongoing basis. The product life cycle for what we make is roughly around 2 years. And so about every 2 years or so, we have to introduce a new process technology to the market upon which all of our other chip products are based. And that's terribly, terribly expensive. And so it's no small thing where we choose to invest. And for over 40 years, Intel has been choosing to invest in Arizona. Recently, just a year ago in March, we announced a $20 billion investment in new manufacturing capacity. And right now we have 2 factories that are under construction at our Ocotillo site. They are the 5th and 6th factories located at that particular campus. And it's going to represent a phenomenal increase in our capacity and what Arizona is going to be able to contribute. We also have about a $3.5 billion expansion underway at our New Mexico factories, another $3 billion expansion of our facilities up in Oregon. And then just last month, we made another $20 billion announcement and commitment to a new greenfield site in Ohio. So Intel is investing an extraordinary amount of capital in the United States to help grow our country's ability to supply semiconductors and to innovate here and to reverse that trend of that data that I showed just a few minutes ago. Arizona has demonstrated over the years that they understand the 3 levers that can be pulled to help drive economic growth. You need to have smart people who have smart ideas, and you need to have an environment where that invites and encourages innovation. Arizona has done a great job of figuring that out. We are an inviting community. The state has successfully drawn intellectual capital and human resources and people who contribute to our industry from all over the world. And those people have gone to work bringing their ideas, whether it's in the universities or in industry, and developing that R&D and being able to get it capitalized and bring it to the market and being able to, in our case, manufacture it at high volumes so that our customers can be served. And so on top of that, Arizona government at all levels have figured out what companies like Intel need to be successful. We have a regulatory environment that enables speed. Those of us who work in the semiconductor, we have to go fast. We have to move very quickly. And if we have a regulatory environment that slows us down, we go elsewhere. So Arizona has done a marvelous job of helping to enable speed and yet still maintain accountability of businesses who are operating. And it's been fantastic. They have worked to address the imbalance that some states have with very capital intensive businesses in terms of how they're treated for tax purposes and other businesses. And so Arizona has done a very good job over the years of creating a much more level playing field for any type of business that wants to engage in the economy based in Arizona. And they've done a number of other things to help encourage with the investment in education initiatives and the strength of our universities and education programs. and the commitment in our communities and cities such as Phoenix and the greater Phoenix area to a diverse and inclusive environment. It has been fantastic. There was a question put in the chat that I can see about concern with water usage in semiconductor manufacturing, and that's a legitimate concern. So let me address that. People sometimes ask, why in the world would Intel invest in a desert? You look at our Israeli operations, New Mexico, Arizona. I mean, we operate major operations in very arid environments. And the simple fact is that we have been able to demonstrate a high value proposition to the water usage in those environments. Here in Arizona, we have a number of processes in place that help us recycle, reduce, or return the water that we use back to our community. Back in the early 90s, we invested in a reverse osmosis system with the city of Chandler that over the years returned 6 billion gallons of water back to the aquifer that had been treated to above drinking water standards. We have invested $500 million for an on-site water reclamation facility at our Ocotillo campus that is helping to return and reuse millions of gallons of water from our operations in addition. So we have been able to address 80% of the water use at our site, and have been able to put in place means to reuse, recycle, or return all of that water. The 20% difference that we could not address at the site is due to evaporation. We had no control of that over at the site. And so what we have done is we've invested several $1 million in about 20 projects up in the watershed that feeds the water system in Arizona to help users up in the watershed implement technologies that reduce the reliance on water. Through that process, we are going to close that gap, that 20% gap remaining. Intel has set a goal that by 2030, we will have zero net use or impact on our communities worldwide. And we are about 90% there in terms of solid waste and being able to return water. So our industry is very sensitive to sustainability, and we have been for years. And so I appreciate the question around water use. With that, I will end and simply say a mantra that Robert Noyce, one of our co-founders, gave to the company. We use it all the time, and that is, do not be encumbered by history, but go off and do something wonderful. And that's what we try to do every day. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you, talk a little bit about Intel and what we're doing and why we continue to invest in Arizona and the United States. And again, appreciate the opportunity to have some focus on the semiconductor industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Just one quick question before we end your section. In terms of the legislation that's out there now, what should people know or be doing relative to that? You've been a leader in getting that to the place it is today. What's your feeling about what the next steps are?
So right now, as Senator Kelly indicated, right now, the good news is that the bill passed through the Senate. The House just passed their version of the bill. It's now in a conference committee where they're negotiating. And the best thing that we can do is to communicate with the Senate and the House leadership how important this is and how critical this is. And so, from a general standpoint, engage with your elected leaders back in Washington to encourage them to move on this. It is a national priority, and they're almost done. They're almost there, and we need to get it across the finish line.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And go Utes. Appreciate it. Your leadership on every level. We're now going to be shifting from Intel and Arizona focus to Japan, and we're going to get a view of what's going on in Japan. And our first speaker is via Zoom. Kuwabara-san is of JX Nippon Mining and Metals will be joining us next. Kuwabara-san, are you there?
Yep. Can you hear me? Or can you see me?
We can. Konbawa.
Honbon.
Where are you located, please?
I'm in the actually behind this South Mountain, Phoenix.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't feel so. Yeah, I had to stay home today, so.
No worries. Konnichiwa. You're going to be telling us a little bit about JX Nippon's view of the semiconductor world. And so please go ahead. We have about 6 or 7 minutes, so we are going to go a little bit over on the macro side, but not too much over. But we want to hear kind of your thoughts and perspectives. Please go ahead.
All right. I don't have so much big pictures. All I'm going to do is briefly introduce our company and what we've been doing. So if you don't mind, somebody can share my. Yep. Anyway, my name is Masago Koba. I'm the heading the JX Nippon Mining and Metals USA here in Chandler. So next slide, please. So next couple of slides is actually, if you are interested in, you can go to our head office, the website, JX Nippon Mining and Metals, and you can find out all these information. But briefly, probably many people doesn't know our company. We are about 75 billion yen, the capital, and the total worldwide employees about 10,000. And next slide, please. And this is just kind of the idea, what kind of the operational income we have. We have 3 major sectors. The very left one is the metal business and recycling. It's there's a little bit smaller than this, 30 billion. And the right bottom is the mineral resources business. It's about 35 million and 31 billion yen. And the right hand, the top one is the functional materials and the thin film materials, which we belong to. This Chandler organization belongs to this group, especially thin film metal business, which produce about 30 billion yen. Next slide, please. Okay, and as of right now, JX Group has the metal groups has the focus business, and then I listed up the 4 here, and the second one, thin film metal business. This is once again we belong to here, and the major product is a couple of the sputtering target for the many areas applications, especially semiconductor industry, which we've been talking about. Okay, that's the kind of the idea what the JX Metal Group is doing. And this is our company. We are located in Chandler, and actually it's just the east side of the 101, across from the Chandler Fashion Center. And many people are talking about originally when this one was built as a Nimtech in 1990. It's still we can see the cotton field, and depends on the seasons. We have to chase out the what do you call the I forgot small bags, white bags, flying all over the places. But anyway, since then, the name changes several times, but actually the same company, just the head office, Japan, changed their name. And now, right now, it's called the JX Nippon Mining and Metals USA since 2011. And our product is just a picture. It's a piece of metal. This piece of metal was composed. This case is the brownish one is the copper, high purity copper, and the silver looks like this is, I think this case is the aluminum. And those 2 materials are bonded, and we here in the United States, in Chandler, we make it nice and clean, customized shape to each customers. And this customer, the customer put this piece of metals into the vacuum chamber, and then put the plasma environment and produce their thin film on the chip. So that is the major product we are producing. And next slide, please. So this is the kind of the chip manufacturing, the fab located in this country right now. Our program is a couple of them, but many of them used to be Japanese companies in 1990. That is one of the reasons JX Group came to the United States to support these Japanese companies. But unfortunately, pretty much everybody left this country. But not surprisingly, but some smart people in the United States acquired these Japanese left fabs, and now they are producing the chips and be doing pretty well. Next slide, please. So this is very, very rough idea what we're doing. The left side is what we produced in Japan, and right side is we produced in the United States. I mean, the rectangular shaped one. So the JX Group's strongest point is the very, very left top is purification. We produce very high purity metals. That is the one of our the selling technologies. And also through this process, I'm not going to go detail, but the metal processing is another strength. So once these high purity metal was customized, very metallurgically sense, customized, and then sent to the United States. And then we machined here and inspect and nicely pack and deliver to the US customers as well as the European customers. Next slide, please. So this is the very, very left is the kind of sales, our sales in the April 2020 all the way to the end of the last year. As you know, the end of the 2019, everybody is worried about the pandemic. And at that time, we had to make the budget. And surprisingly, sales forecast, sales group produced, for the budget was very, very strong. So we were very worried about this is too strong or not, but we took a chance. I accepted my salespeople's idea, and actually the May it's dipped. It's a kind of the first kind of the wave we hit. I mean, in Arizona, this pandemic hit, and at that time, honestly speaking, we didn't know how to react the pandemic or sick people. So the sales, I mean, not sales, it is sales, but the production hit significantly. But after that, we knew how to deal with this pandemic pretty well. And in fact, sales keep growing and growing and growing and still growing. And customer demand is very, very strong. We cannot or even cannot catch up to every customer's demand. Next slide, please. So I think many people already mentioned, this is the kind of the major fab expansion plan in the United States, summarized. Intel, TSMC already mentioned. Texas Instrument, it's not Phoenix, Arizona, but in Texas, Utah, and Samsung, another fab in Texas, and Global Foundries. So if you can see the production schedule and the investment wise, it's very, very aggressive, very aggressive. And then, in fact, I'm sorry, go back. In fact, we were talking about the TSMC and Intel came in to invest in the Phoenix area. That's great. And at the almost same time, early this year and early last year or middle of last year, Samsung was maybe thinking to the Phoenix area also. And it is good for the world, the Phoenix area's economy sense, but it's getting sudden, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but sudden big fab come to the one area could produce some problem too. But for us, business-wise, it's good. So considering those kind of investment, this is the current the forcing the U.S. market target, sputtering target growth. If you consider the last year first half is the one, the 2025 is close to reaching the 2.5 times. It's very, very rapid growth. Next slide, please. So once again, this is the same the chip manufacturers in the United States, the pictures. And we talk about the big investment, Intel, TSMC, Global Foundries, Texas Instrument, but there's another, I won't say small, but it's very, very active chip manufacturers all over the United States, and they're very, very aggressive and positive for the future. So we have to support all these companies, not only the big guys. And this is the kind of everybody knows. Sorry, I created this one for my headquarters in Japan, so it's in Japanese. But everybody knows TSMC is supposed to be start pretty soon in the northern Phoenix area, and the Intel is in Chandler. We have Microchip, NXP, one is near the airport, and there's so many the highways all across the greater Phoenix area. When I came maybe 30 years ago, it's only I-10 is the only highway, but now it's so expanding. And the TSMC area is many, our supplier, not our TSMC suppliers coming, and many other industries coming all over the greater Phoenix area, and especially near us, like Phoenix Gateway Airport area is very, very active. Next slide, please. So I'm not the economist, I'm not the smart guy, but just kind of concern and challenge. And as everybody knows, not only the house, but for the industry, real estate is increased very, very sharply. So I cannot hope stabilize pretty soon, but has to be stabilized, I guess. And as I mentioned, so many new company fabs, industry comes in this area. The labor market is getting tight and tight. So we really need more good people. I mean, many people from the many other states, for the wide range of the qualifications. And also the labor market is tight, wage is going up, and the health insurance, I have no idea how we can control, but we have to have a good healthcare package to attract the peoples. That is one of the, I think, the focus area in our company. And lastly, I think whenever I have the occasions, I have begging. I don't know who exactly I should beg, but I just begging many people's. We really, not we, we, and I, especially I, really want non-stop direct flight between Phoenix and Japan, Tokyo, Osaka. We used to have Phoenix to Nagoya by the America West, but it disappeared pretty quickly. But I really hope somebody to push some airline to have a non-stop direct flight between Phoenix and Japan. That's really helpful, the people's movement, and also the logistical wise, if we can clear the import materials from Japan or export from Phoenix directly, that would be really, really helpful for our industry also, I think. Anyway, that's pretty much I wanted to mention today. Thank you.
Wabata-san, thank you very much. Let's move on now to Sumitomo Chemical, another company here in supply chain that has a long history of investment. Ken Campman is their president and CEO. Ken, please.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. And thanks for letting us have the opportunity to come here, give you a little introduction about our company and how we fit into the supply chain and how we fit into the activities here in Arizona. So thank you very much. I think I have a presentation coming up. But we talk a lot about transplants from California. I was one of those back in 1997. So I came out here and having been here, what, 25 years or so. So not a native, but compared to a lot of people, I feel like I'm an Arizona native here, but all right, coming.
We need the presentation called up, either Cesar or Mike. Here we go.
Yeah, perfect.
We can see it.
Yeah.
It's very close.
Oh, one over. There you go. Perfect. Oh, lost it. Yep. Okay. Perfect. So again, I think I just want to I'll spend a short amount of time here, just really talking about our company and our role here in Phoenix. Sumitomo Chemical, I think, is a much bigger name in Japan. In the United States, not so many people know the name Sumitomo Chemical. The name Sumitomo itself, all the Sumitomo Chemical Group companies in the world, I don't know the total revenue of all those companies, but $1 trillion, I'm not really sure. So, and the relationship between the Sumitomo Chemical and the other companies is a little bit complicated sometimes. So I've been working for the company almost 20 years, and I'm not sure I understand all the relationships yet. So one of these days, I think I'll figure it out. But next slide, please. So Sumitomo Chemical Company, founded in 1913. Really the history of the House of Sumitomo had a copper mine in Japan, and Sumitomo Chemical was started as one of the byproducts of the copper smelting process was a contaminant, a pollutant, and they took that contaminant and pollutant and created fertilizer out of that. So I'll talk more about sustainability, but it's really at the DNA and the core of Sumitomo Chemical and a very important concept for Sumitomo Chemical in general. A large company, over 20 billion US dollars in revenue, solidly profitable. A lot of companies, more employees actually overseas than actually in Japan, about 35,000 employees total. Okay. Sumitomo Chemical is involved in a lot of basic chemicals in a variety of industries. So 5 major units within Sumitomo Chemical: pharmaceuticals, health and crop sciences, petrochemicals and plastics. And then the 2 that we are chartered to handle here in the United States, one is energy and functional materials, and the other is IT-related chemicals. So as Sumitomo Chemical Advanced Technologies, we are headquartered in Phoenix, Arizona. We back up to the Salt River, just south of the airport. So you can see us when you land, and also just wave. But so we do our own semiconductor manufacturing. We make compound semiconductor epitaxial wafers. I'll explain a little bit about what that is. I'm not going to go into the technical details of that. But we also have technical sales, distribution, and logistics for Sumitomo Chemical products that are manufactured in Japan and other places around the world at other Sumitomo Chemical Group companies. So next one. So how do we fit in to the semiconductor materials? Again, this is all of Sumitomo Chemical. One of the big ones here, if you're looking at the lower left there, photoresist is a very important chemical in the semiconductor processing and semiconductor fabrication process. I'll show a little bit about what that is. Here in Arizona, we do our manufacturing of these gallium arsenide epi wafers. So we do the manufacturing here, and we have customers all over the world. Our single biggest customer is Japanese. We have US customers, Taiwan, Asia, EU, all around the world. So we are manufacturing here and exporting all around the world. Okay. So just, really briefly, the main semiconductor products, again, the starting substrate. So these epitaxial wafers for the compound semiconductors, those are very niche applications. So silicon is your major semiconductor. So almost we talk about Silicon Valley, Silicon Desert. But there's other semiconductors out there, in particular gallium arsenide or gallium nitride, which are very good at handling high power, very high speeds, and they generate light. So those are very specialty applications. They're more expensive than silicon. That's why you don't use it all the time. I mean, silicon is a raw material found on beaches all over the world, basically, but gallium and arsenic are not so popular elements. So, how do we fit into the supply chain? The first step of the cleaning process, we do have process chemicals that we provide here in the United States and around the world. Generally speaking, some of these are very common chemicals, but they have to be purified to parts per trillion of any contaminants. And that's a very important part of the semiconductor process as line widths get smaller and smaller. A previous speaker had mentioned about some targets. We also are involved in that business, aluminum targets. But again, the photoresist, I think the next slide will talk more about photoresist, but that's one of the major ways that we contribute to the supply chain, particularly here in Arizona and other places around the world. Also, we provide some epoxy resins. There's some other thick photoresists which are used in advanced packaging applications. And finally, we also supply some polymers as well that are used in packaging or connectors that are in some 5G applications. So next slide, please. Yeah, so from the semiconductor, they always talk about Moore's law, about how line widths get narrower and narrower and narrower. And so again, we really play into this field in terms of the photoresists. So the photoresists are used to basically, in very simple terms, you take a picture and you leave a mask for these with very small dimensions. So as these transistors get smaller and smaller, we're talking about a few nanometers. I always compare it to the width of a human hair. I just don't have any hair to show you guys, sorry. But generally speaking, as the line widths get narrower and narrower, the photoresists become more and more complicated. And so current advanced technology is really in this ARF immersion products. And then next generation technologies, when you want to get to 5 nanometers and below, then EUV photoresists are critical. And so Sumitomo Chemical is supplying these photoresists to major fabs around the world. Thank you. Again, our global network, here we are in Phoenix, Arizona, where we do, again, our epi wafer production and for 5G and sensing applications. I know that one of the previous speakers from GPEC talked about sensor technology here in Phoenix, but also sites around the world, of course, in Japan, Korea, China, and Taiwan. So next slide, please. Again, going back to those compound semiconductor materials, a little bit different than what we're talking about here with the Intels of the world, but some of the applications, base stations for 5G in particular. So again, very high frequency, very high power applications. In particular, the gallium nitride materials are very effective in those. For automatic vehicles or LiDAR, basically LiDAR, smartphones, anything that wants to see the world, machine vision, these light sources, there's a particular material, a particular type of laser called a vertical cavity surface emitting laser, which is very ideal for use as a light source to basically so your devices can see the world. And that's the type of product that we create. Also data centers, if you want to connect a bunch of computers together, if you connect them with copper wire and ran electricity through it, you would, I don't know how much electricity you need to do that, but these are connected with optical fiber. So you need something that turns the electrical signal computer into an optical signal to shoot down these fibers. And that's, again, these vertical cavity surface emitting lasers that we provide the raw material to fabs that will then create devices out of them. Okay. So as far as commitment to capacity and supplying support for the global supply chain, we certainly in Japan are continually making investments in photoresist capacity to support, as we've heard, a lot of expansion in the photoresist business, or sorry, the semiconductor fabrication business, both in the United States and around the world. And for epi wafers, we're making capacity investments here in the United States as well. So, okay. Finally, I just want to mention, as we talked about before, Sumitomo Chemical is very involved with the UN looking at sustainable development goals. And also, they have the concept of Jiri Rita. Apologize for my Japanese pronunciation, but really that this product should benefit society, but also benefit our company. And so again, that founding product is such a good example of that, where we're taking a look at, this is something that we're helping the environment and then also selling that product to, strengthen our own business as a company. So again, that's really built into the DNA. Every year there's awards within this company, what we call Sumika Sustainable Products. So products that are really directly addressing some of these UN Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. Yep, it's just the lawyer statement there. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Lawyers play a key role. Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate it. Our next speaker is from United Precision Technologies, and I think you're here. Fantastic. And tell me your name again.
Harashima.
Arashima-san.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Are you based here in Arizona? or
No, Hawaii.
In Hawaii?
No, Hawaii. California.
Oh,
Orange County.
Orange County.
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your opportunity, they're giving me this opportunity. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Harashima. I'm from the United Precision Technologies located in Hawaii, Orange County. And then this morning I landed to the Arizona airport and then down to the here by the rental cars. Then I realized, gas price is very cheap, 3.4. In California, Hawaii is today's rate is 4.91. So expensive, so that I have to move to here to live. So anyway, and let's start with my presentation. Yes, next. Yes, start with the my company overviews. And we are very United Precision Technology is the very young company, established 2015. But we have two child companies called Kyosei and Coghram Chemicals. These companies are more than 70 years old. And then the size of the company's total employee number is 230 in Japan and another 1,000 in the Thailand facility. So if I compare with the JX and also Sumitomo Chemical, our company is very small. Next page, please. But we are now growing. This is the global network. We have the factory in Thailand and also Japan. And then we are now establishing the new factory in Korea to support the Korean semiconductors company. There's a memory companies. And in US, we have the two offices in California, Irvine and San Diego. Okay. Then this is the our value proposition. So our company is the main value, the core technology is the photo etching. I think you never know the photo etching. Photo etching is the kind of the microfabrications, the technology to make very precise small component. So next page, please. Yes, this slide give you the clear idea what we are making. So we have the three segments. One is the semiconductors, today's main topics, and for consumers. And for the another last one is for industrial. So let me talk first for the consumers. So you can see that we have the #1 share in VCM camera spring. This is the spring used in smartphones camera modules. We have a #1 share in the worldwide. I think you have the iPhones. iPhone use our product. Okay. And then for the industrial market, we are making the filter for circulation, the gas, waters, and also masks. And also for medical, we are making the drug stent and also the needles. And then for semiconductors, today's topics, we're making the contact pins and the socket and the trays. And also the contact seat and the rubbers. So in the semiconductor is really expanding for our business and then a very good momentum right now. So let me talk about the semiconductors market situation right now. Next page, please. So we have the big issue right now for the semiconductors, which is the shortage. So as far as I remember, this shortage happened at the beginning of last years. So there are multiple reasons. The cause of this shortage, for example, the COVID-19, the pandemic, and also disasters. Last year in Texas, we have the outage due to the major cold wave. And also right now is the new COVID-19 variant makes some impact to the Asian, the facilities, especially the assembly. And also in China is a critical outage due to the lack of the core. And another headache is now is the logistics. So it's very hard to book the container ship. And also some of the airport is the shutdown due to the COVID-19, then makes the lack of the operators in the customs. So the result, as of the result, is that this shortage and the longer lead time makes our end customer also impacted. Then they have to announce cut down the production, and then especially the automotive and the consumer market, especially Toyota and the iPhone also. So how to solve this shortage and longer lead time? Of course, it's increase the capacity and maximize the capacity in current existing fab, and also build the new facility in the right place. So if I look at in the United States, where is the hot place to build the new fab? Next page, please. Yes, here in Arizona. So because Arizona has many key players, for example, Intel and the TSMC will come in soon. So Arizona is a very important state for the semiconductors market. So what my company can help to support the growth in semiconductors market in Arizona. Next page, please. So this is my last slide. And then this is a kind of supply chain map. So UPT is located in Japan. Then we sell a lot of small components to the semiconductor manufacturing equipment makers. So, and also sometimes we direct to sell to the semiconductors companies like a socket and the trays. So especially in Intel, we have an ongoing project. We direct to sell the socket to the Intel directly. Then, but most of the case for us is a business model is we sell our product to the manufacturing equipment makers, vendors. So I listed some of them. So you can see here that there are a lot of Japanese companies. So we make our product in Japan, sometimes in Taiwan, to sell the Japanese equipment makers. And in addition to that, we purchase the raw material from JX, and we purchase liquid for the photo etching from Sumitomo. So we cross in Japan to sell our customers. Then these customers sell to the semiconductor maker like Intel, TSMC. So this is a kind of my comment as closing my session. So Japan is very important for the growth in the semiconductor market in the Arizona. Next page, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Harashima-san. And so now we're getting toward the end of the program. We've just got a couple speakers left. And so our next speaker is, I believe, by video as well, Craig Kirkove of Hitachi High-Tech America. Craig, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Yay, fantastic. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am Craig Kirkove. I'm the president and CEO of Hitachi High-Tech America. I think everybody is familiar with Hitachi. It's a large conglomerate that does IT, industry, mobility, smart life, automotive systems. Hitachi High-Tech is a subsidiary company. Our semiconductor focus is with observation, measurement, and production capabilities. And all of the device manufacturers that spoke here tonight are customers. We're pleased to follow them around the world, supporting all their endeavors. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. So I will share this. Can you see that?
We can.
Cool. So most of the speakers tonight have talked about the ubiquitous nature of semiconductors, and this is a chart from World Trade statistics that shows the drivers for demand for semiconductor devices. The demand over the last 2 years and for the future continues to be quite strong, and that rising demand, a complex global supply chain, add in a pandemic, and you end up with critical worldwide shortages. So you go to your favorite search engine, type in chip shortage, and you'll find these were the headlines I found 2 days ago. So you have automotive plants shutting down, no end in sight, and you'll see that in several places. So that's kind of the nature that, or kind of the business that we're dealing with today. Reacting to this, we heard tonight that the U.S. Passing a CHIPS Act put $52 billion to strengthen domestic semiconductor manufacturing and to help us entice device manufacturers back to the U.S. That's a great thing, but your favorite search engine will also show you that just about every other country in this world, their government has passed some sort of legislation, put forward a great deal of funding to help entice semiconductor to come to their shores. So we are being bestowed with the tool, which I think will help us, but we still have to really stay engaged to make sure that we can attract the business that we actually want to land here on our shores. Next. There we go. There we go. Anyway, I've got 4 charts here. The first 3 have already been spoken to, so I won't spend too much time on them other than to say worldwide semiconductor sales growth over the last 2 years has been quite strong. And it looks like for 22, we're expecting 10 to 11%, depending on who you believe, in continued growth. So the drive is still there. About half of that revenue is generated from the United States. And you can see the breakout for the rest of the world. As was also mentioned previously, wafer capacity is scattered all over the world. And this truly is a global industry, and we have to do business and recognize that as such. The world that I live in is providing fab equipment to our customers. If you look at since 2019, we've seen significant growth, slowing a little bit for the forecast in 22, but it's still growing, and that's good news. It shows the health of the industry, and that will reflect well in Arizona, where we're certainly supporting our customers. So fab equipment is quite complex, and we heard earlier that the devices, life is about 2 years, and it has to be upgraded. The processes have to evolve. These are very complex in nature. So every 2 years, these equipment, these systems have to reflect those needs. So it's a very fast-paced and invigorating world that we work in. These systems are assembled from thousands of components procured from all over the world. So the last few presentations, you've kind of got a taste of that. We sell to our customers that are building chips. We sell to the other suppliers that are providing equipment and spare parts and to the end users as well. So it really is an integrated industry. Installing, operating, and maintaining these systems requires highly specialized skills, and equipment suppliers have to establish support capabilities comprised of specialists and material near the semiconductor device manufacturers. I talked a little bit ago about the forecast for equipment going up. One of the things I thought would be good to show you is that about 39% of the equipment that fabs use to make their chips is made in the US. 61% comes from outside the US. 23% of that comes from Japan. And as correctly pointed out earlier, these suppliers are recognized regularly by the device manufacturers as being key vendors to help them do their business. So it's a very important part of the business. So I wanted to add on to some of the comments earlier about the importance of supporting the equipment part of the business. You know, from a logistics standpoint, suppliers need to move these very large systems, a lot of spare parts, modification kits, people to meet these customer demands. So having the infrastructure in place to be able to do that is quite important. And we have to recognize that with 61% of the people that come to these factories, 61% of the companies providing that support are from outside this country. There's not enough resources in the US to support all this work. And especially when these factories are expanding, when they're being built, I liken this to Olympics, right? There's a great deal of countries that are out wooing these companies to build their factories. The companies will ultimately make an announcement, and they'll award, you know, this local entity that they're going to get this great factory. And then shortly afterwards, there's this huge push of building infrastructure to be able to support all of this. If you think about the Olympics, you've got all these highly skilled athletes that are coming to the country to compete. When you're building a fab, you've got highly skilled technical staff that are coming in to support these ramps. You have huge surges in support. If you look at a fab during normal operation and you look at it during construction and a ramp, the people that are required at that site, the numbers will double. And we need to recognize that, especially during a pandemic, how difficult it is to get these folks from overseas here to support these factories is really quite challenging. And we need that kind of support. So during construction factory ramps, you know, long-term and short-term housing. Somebody mentioned earlier, direct flights from Japan would be helpful for the Japanese community. People is critical right now. Within the industry, frankly, we're stealing from each other. We're driving the costs up, but we're not fixing the problem, which is that we need more trained resources. So education, trying to entice you know, our kids that they need to be interested in science from an early age is important. And this needs to be a long-term approach to be able to fix this issue. I'm not sure there's a real short-term fix to this, but long-term, it's something we need to look at. As I said, global support, the experts coming from overseas are going to be required for short-term needs and long-term STEM training and skilled trades training as a long-term solution. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and hear people's thoughts. So I will thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I will go on mute.
Thank you, Craig. You know, one of the things that really occurs to me listening to you and also to all of our speakers is the importance of the supply chain. And for those of us, including all the speakers here, that have been involved with the supply chain of semiconductor, very often it's shared with aerospace and automotive as well. There's lots of little things involved with making the final product, right? And that's really exciting for those people all along the chain. At least it was for me when I was involved with that. and so I'm really excited by what's happening in Arizona and with all of the players in the chain. It again goes to the importance of globalization and how important it is to have a global supply chain and to work globally. So we're now going to be almost closing. One more speaker, and I'm not sure which of the three of it will be. Shibahara-san of JETRO, who's the executive director of JETRO in Los Angeles. We've got Asai-san, he's a director of Food Business Development Department, and Saiki-san, who's executive director, special advisor to the Minister of Economy, Trade, and Finance, and Industry. Sorry. So which one of you will be speaking? Okay, very good. Please come on up. Thank you for the time.
So first of all, I'm Doug from Global Chamber. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I would like to thank Dr. Coghram from Thunderbird for this wonderful opportunity, and also always the continuous cooperation from the state of Arizona and the city of Phoenix. Hello, my name is Yasu Asai. I'm from JETRO, Japanese government related agency. It's Japan External Trade Organization, abbreviated in JETRO. How many have you been, do you know about JETRO? I don't think a lot of people don't know. Let me just briefly explain about JETRO. JETRO is a Japanese government agency that promotes trade and investment to Japan and to the rest of the world. So basically what we do here, I'm located in Los Angeles. So we try to help out Japanese companies expand their business here in the US, vice versa. We also help US companies that are willing to invest to Japan and support their needs as well. Can you go back to the first slide, please? Thank you. And I recognize from this wonderful session is that everybody was talking about in order to succeed in creating like a global supply chain is that both parties have to create a strong relationship, collaborate, a partnership, and then everybody was kind of mentioning about that. Taking this opportunity, I would like to present two things is that once this first slide is mentioning about TSMC's investment in Japan. They are establishing a joint venture with Sony Semiconductor Solution Corporation. It's called Japan Advanced Semiconductor Manufacturing. Their first manufacturing is targeted in starting in 2024. And then what I'd like to mention is that this investment is in Japan. But what's really unique is that my colleague right here, Norihiko, when he had a chance to visit Arizona with his colleagues from the Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry, is that they were talking to the officials in Phoenix and how in Japan, this investment, this is a large investment as well, nothing compared to the one in here in Arizona, is that the city of Kumamoto was trying to figuring out how to kind of estimate the economic effectiveness of that investment itself. And then the city of the Phoenix was really kind enough to kind of present their kind of business model of the cost estimation of how this investment here in Arizona that takes place will, basically affect the economic growth here in Arizona as well. So they were very, very kind enough to kind of present that business model. And then, we are right now in talks with the city of Phoenix about kind of sharing those ideas so that it would be beneficial for mutual for both sides. And also, I would like to present is that JETRO always in the past has been organizing a Japanese company business delegation to Select USA. Not only during Select USA, which is held in Washington, DC, is that we also have organized a spin-off event where we have like 6 offices throughout the US. And then we organize in each office within their territorial states that we have organized a investment delegation to targeted states. And then right now we are planning to dispatch a delegation, not only from Japan, from Japanese companies, but already Japanese companies that are established here, that have subsidiaries here, to establish, to organize a delegation here in Arizona, which is pretty probably obvious. We're going to be focusing on the field of semiconductor. And this would, we're planning, we flew in today, this afternoon, today in the morning, and then we had already discussions with the Arizona Commerce Authority. We kind of shared ideas. They really loved the idea. They were more than willing to support us to make this happen. So I really strongly think that in order to have a strong relationship, a strong partnership between both countries, between the state of Arizona and Japan as well, is that in order to make this happen, is that we have to have, we're willing to cooperate. And just throwing in the shies right here is that our past events that we had offices planned in Virginia, Ohio, Georgia. So for this year in 2022 is that we are planning to organize a delegation, Japanese business delegation here in the state of Arizona. And then for the people that are attending, people that are online, I would like to strongly have your support in making this happen. And thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Asai-san, thank you very much. Thanks for all the work that JETRO does. Thanks to all the speakers for attending today, presenting this information. Sorry we went a little bit over, but I think you can agree that that was amazing information, wasn't it? How about a round of applause for all the speakers? The world is becoming more global, not less global. You know, I think it was Kofi Annan who had argued that arguing against globalization is like arguing against the laws of gravity. It's changing, it's evolving. In my 35 years of experience with global business, it's only evolved deeper and wider and around the world. And I think hopefully today you saw that the integration of a supply chain is important to semiconductor is becoming more and more integrated and more important, and certainly very important for the state of Arizona. I want to thank the Japanese Consulate of LA for the inspiration and the support and the sponsorship of this event. Have a round of applause for Consul General Muto and the Brian Swords, who's in the background, who's a very shy fellow, actually, you know, does a lot of the really outstanding work for the consulate, as do the people within the consulate. They've been a very strong supporter of the state of Arizona. As we talked about earlier, a year ago, the investment in Arizona, support for getting Japanese companies to invest, and now going forward, continued support. So we really appreciate all of that help and support. I want to thank Mike Grosso, who's in the back here, and also Gazal, who's over here, who's been really instrumental in helping us put this program together. Candace Thomas couldn't be here, but she's also been very supportive and normally is involved with these events, and she wasn't able to attend today, beyond her control, but she's very helpful in putting this together. And not last but not least, but certainly an amazing support for Global Chamber every day is Cesar Trabanco, who is sitting in Puerto Rico right now. At what time is it there? Probably 10 o'clock at night. And he's working kind of behind the scenes and making sure that this has moved as smoothly as it is. Global Chambers in 525 chapters around the world. And we continue to help and support companies to be global and unstoppable, as our tagline is, and as Dr. Coghram had mentioned earlier. I want to thank all of you who've hung in here in terms of the event here in person, and all of you online. Thank you very much. Continue to be global and unstoppable. Thank you.